What's up, it's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I'll be giving my starting 11 for the USMNT Nations League game against Grenada. And before I get into this team, this is Grenada we're playing. This isn't going to be the strongest 11 that I want us to field. This is going to be a team that's a bit experimental. I'm going to be changing up the formation, trying a couple of players out, because this is a game that we should be winning no matter what. If you look at Grenada, they have players in England's sixth tier. This is a game that I legitimately believe #United have a chance to beat. Like, this is a game we will be winning. This is the time to be experimenting with the team. In goal, I'm going with Ethan Horvath. And again, I'm going to say this isn't my strongest 11, but this is a game that we're going to be dominating. We're going to have the ball the entire time. So I want to experiment with a goalkeeper who's a bit better with the ball at his feet. Not that Ethan Horvath is amazing in that department, but I feel like he can offer something a little bit different than Matt Turner. And now that Horvath is finally playing consistently, I'd rather have him in the squad than Zach Steffen. Steffen, I think, has a little bit of higher highs as a goalkeeper than Ethan Horvath, but I just don't think I'll ever really feel comfortable with Zach Steffen in goal unless he makes some major strides. He's just a little bit too error prone. Now, again, Matt Turner's my number one keeper, but I do want to give Ethan Horvath a couple of reps before the Nations League final because Matt Turner was shaky in his last appearance with Arsenal, so much so that he was actually dropped for their next Europa League game. So I want us to have another option who's familiar with playing with this squad. So I definitely feel like we should be playing our backup goalkeeper in this game, and for me, that's Ethan Horvath. At center back, I'm going to be going with Auston Trusty and Mark McKenzie. Now, Philadelphia Union bias is in effect, but I think there's merit to starting both these guys. Both of them are very good athletic center backs who are very strong on the ball, who I feel like have a lot of potential to possibly impact this team. First, we have Mark McKenzie, who I think has always been an extremely talented player. Like I mentioned before, great athleticism, on ball ability is very strong. But when he's with the national team, he hasn't looked great. In fact, in easy games like this, typically he underperforms and gives the ball away a lot and puts us on the back foot. So I think this is a situation where we can play him in an easy game, get him more comfortable with the national team, and hey, put his former center back partner alongside him. That'll probably help him feel comfortable. And I feel like if he can have a good game here, maybe he can get over that mental barrier that I'm guessing is what's holding him back because we know everything else is really good for him. He's performing well in Belgium. So get him to have a strong performance today, and then hopefully that can carry into stronger performances in the future against better teams. Then with Auston Trusty, mentioned it before, I feel like he'll be a good partner for McKenzie. They already have the rapport from their time at the Philadelphia Union. But in addition to that, we're calling him in, and this is the game to try him out. I don't think Trusty would be particularly close to breaking into my first 11 or even the 26-man squad that I have if everybody's here. But we brought him. Let's try him out for a reason. I mean, he's good playing the ball at the back. He's a left-footed center back, which is very tough to land. We do have Tim Ream, we do have John Brooks, but I'm going to be saving Ream for the El Salvador game, and I think Trusty might actually be ahead of John Brooks right now. So let's give him a shot in this game. We're going to be dominating the ball. I think while Miles Robinson would be fine in this game, I want us to see Trusty in this situation. I wanted to get some reps with the national team, and I think this is the game to do it. At right back, I'm picking Sergino Dest, and that might be a bit of a surprise because I've said recently that I actually have Joe Scally ahead of Dest on my depth chart, and I still do. But I think this is a game that I want to see Dest play because, as I mentioned before, we're going to be dominating the ball. This is an attacking game where I feel like he will really be able to shine. And in addition, I'll get into a bit more later, but I want to see how he does in this specific setup that I'm going to be playing. So I do want to have Dest starting, and in addition, I kind of want to test him in this situation because he hasn't been playing much at Milan. We know about his defensive issues, and if he doesn't look great against Grenada, I think that's a serious cause for concern. So I want to test him a little bit, but at the same time, I really want to see his attacking play in this game because Grenada is going to be playing defensively, and it's not going to be easy to break them down. I do expect us to win by at least 5 if we try our hardest, but it's not going to be that simple to break down the team. So it's good to have more attacking talents. And as mentioned before, I do want to see him in this specific setup. At left back, it's Jedi Robinson. He's one of the few guys who's in my preferred starting 11 who I'd have starting in this game. And just because we don't really have a backup, I don't want to put Scally or Dest out of position at left back. And Jedi has proven that he can play 2 games consecutively before. Again, ideally we'd have a backup, but we don't right now. I'm hoping that Caleb Wiley by the end of this year can really start to push for that spot. But right now it's just Jedi, unfortunately. But hey, it's not a bad thing to have Jedi in the team. He's proven to be a very good player this year in the Premier League, and I'm excited to continue to watch him grow because I feel like he's a very solid player, and I feel good about having him in the team. In a 4-2-3-1, the midfield two that I'm going with is Luca de la Torre and Yunus Musah. I'm dropping Weston McKennie for this game because I feel like Grenada's going to be playing extremely defensively, and I want 2 highly technical midfielders who I feel like are adept at breaking down defense, and I really want to see Luca de la Torre and Yunus Musah go to work on this team. They've both been playing very well in Spain recently, getting consistent playing time, which I really wasn't expecting both of them to get this year, but they've been playing very well. Luca de la Torre has established himself as a starter in a top 5 league, and Yunus Musah continues to look like a wonder kid. And he's somebody I'm very excited about. And I think those two are 2 guys I want to see in this situation because Tyler Adams is injured, obviously, and we don't really have a great backup at the 6. I'm not that trusting of Johnny Cardoso yet, honestly, to the point where, similar to backup left backs, I would rather experiment with an entirely different formation rather than try Cardoso in this team. I wouldn't be mad if he plays here, but I'd rather see if Musah and De La Torre have enough defensive work rate to cover for the lack of a 6. And I think they do. Luke De La Torre has looked very good in the past when he's been asked to cover. And I think that Yunus Musah could do a job in this spot. It'll be interesting to see these two in a different setup, but I think they're up for the task. And I want to see us with a highly technical team that can break down this Grenada side. And I think those two are the best at doing it. Though, if Weston McKennie does start, I can see a situation where he's just arriving late in the box and putting in a couple of goals. So when, obviously we're going to win this game, but I'd like to see Luca de la Torre and Yunus Musah start. At the 10, I'm going to be starting Gio Reyna. I know that he hasn't been playing the most for Borussia Dortmund recently, and I feel like I remember hearing about something off the field. I can't really remember what that is, though. But Gio Reyna, I feel like, should be starting at the 10 in this game. He's probably the most talented player that we have. I love his on-ball ability. He has great goal-scoring, dribbling threat. He has everything you want out of a top player, and we haven't really been able to see him as a number 10, and this is a game to experiment with the formation. Let's get him on the ball. Let's have him drive at the defense because I feel like Gio Reyna can really be the key to us reaching that next level as a squad. And this is the game to really start to integrate him, try to make that happen. We can play with a really technical midfield. And I want to see how Gio does in that position. He hasn't been playing there that much for Dortmund. He's been playing a bit more on the wing, and you could make an argument with a different order of the players that I could say later. But I want to see Gio Reyna as a 10. I want to see him go to work, and I think he'd be a very good player this game. On the right wing, I'm going with Alejandro Zendejas. I've been crying out for a left-footed attacker to be in this team for a very long time, and Zendejas finally provides that role for us. And I'm interested to see how he can do, cutting in on that left foot from that right-hand side. And, I'm not too sure if he's really going to be that great of a player for us. He's playing in Liga MX, which is probably a better level than the MLS, but not particularly great. And he didn't have the best showing in Camp Cupcake, in my opinion. But if he's in a team where he's surrounded by better technical players, players who can actually play with him, I think he could do a lot better. And in addition, I want to see him cut in on that left foot, which will provide some width for Sergino Dest to run into. I think that seeing Dest in a bit more of a traditional fullback role where he's providing the width, where he can get some crosses, I want to see how he can do in that spot. And honestly, I think that Bryan Reynolds would be great to pair alongside Zendejas in that position. But I'm going with Dest today, and I want to see how Dest can do in that attacking role. That means playing a left-footed attacker, so I want to see how Zendejas does. And even if he's probably not in my 26-man squad, if everybody's healthy, I think this is the game to give him a shot and see if he can prove that he should be in the team over a guy like Kevin Paredes, who's another good left-footed attacker in our team. Honestly, Caleb Wiley might be in that pretty soon as well. But I want to see how Zendejas does today. Brenden Aaronson's on that left-hand side for me. I'm playing him over Christian Pulisic because I think that we should be having Pulisic on a minutes restriction right now. He's recently just come back from injury, and we've ran him into the ground before as a national team. So let's save him for the El Salvador game. He doesn't need to play today. And I think that Aaronson has done very well in this left wing role for us. I've actually not liked him too much in the midfield with the national team, which is weird because he is a preferred midfielder. He likes to play the 10 more. And honestly, you could make an argument that Aaronson should be playing the 10 and we should have Reyna on the wing. But I think that Reyna could be a starter for us at the 10. While Aaronson, I'm not sure if I'd want to sacrifice another deeper midfielder to have him play the 10 with the lack of goal contributions he's had at Leeds. But in that wing spot, I think he's been very good for us. We know the energy that he brings pressing, and I think he's a very underrated dribbler. He can take players on very well. His goal threat was very good in World Cup qualifying. And, while I don't think he's a starter with this group, I think that he can be a very strong backup in a lot of positions. I've really liked him in this role when Pulisic has been out, and I think it might be his preferred spot in the future for the national team specifically, and I want to see him work in this position. Lastly, up top, we've got Ricardo Pepi, and I would like to see Daryl DK in this team, but with the game that I'm playing with inverted wingers, with a 10, a very technical midfield, I'd rather have somebody like Pepi, who we know has amazing hold-up play, who's probably a more technical striker than Daryl DK, who can play with this team a lot more. Pepi can drop to the midfield somewhat competently. I don't think he's as good as Josh Sargent, but with the players that we have, I'd feel much better with Pepi in this situation. And should things go horribly wrong this game, Daryl DK could come off the bench and completely change the game. And honestly, in the second half, we could sub off Zendejas, put Rain on that right hand side, and start to get in some crosses and play a more typical U.S. setup, which I think Daryl DK would look very good at. But for starting the game, I'd like to see Ricardo Pepi because he more fits the style of play that I'm going with. And I also want to get him on the field. I mean, he's still an extremely young player. He could be with the U20 team. I actually think he probably should be with the U20 team right now. And just so full of potential that I want to get him on the field if he is here. And he's a really strong player for us. So this is the starting lineup I'd be playing for the game. Ethan Horvath in goal, Mark McKenzie and Auston Trusty in defense, Sergino Dest at right back, Jedi Robinson as a left back, Luca de la Torre and Yunus Musah as the 2 in a 4-2-3-1, Gio Reyna as the 10, Alejandro Zendejas on the right, Brenden Aaronson on the left, and Ricardo Pepi up top. And again, I should say, we are playing Grenada. This is a game that we'd be dominating, whoever we fielded. And when I look at the starting lineup that I'm playing today, I think only 3 of them are with my preferred USA lineup. Obviously, Tyler Adams is out with an injury. Tim Weah had to withdraw from the team with an injury. So I look a little bit smarter for forgetting to write his name down when I was going over the roster. But it's thankful. I don't even know if this is a good or a bad thing. He has a concussion, so it's not another leg injury or muscle injury that's been really negatively affecting him. But man, concussions are rough. And I do want to hold Pulisic back a little bit, make sure we're only playing him when we really have to. And that El Salvador game could be pretty tough. I do respect El Salvador as a team, and that could be a tough matchup. So I want to have our strongest team available for that game. So that's why Tim Ream isn't starting. That's why I'm experimenting with the team a bit more today. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this lineup. Hopefully we can put 5 goals past them. And yeah, that's all I got to talk about. See you.